everyone? Welcome to Real Estate Talk today. My name is Jeff Infante. I have my partners here, Josh DeBrossard and Jenny Clement. And today, guys, we have interesting guests with us, and we're going to talk about a few interesting things that might help you guys out when you're out there in your property search and all that good stuff. Dan, tell us a little about yourself, your company, how long you've been doing this.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. A lot of smiley faces today, so that's always good. Real estate is good. We're blessed.
Yes.
So my name is Dan Bulkan. I'm the owner of Bulkan Title and Closing. We established Bulkan Title in June of 2016, so we're coming up on our 6th year in business.
Nice.
So that's been very good. I have been in the title and closing industry since 2004. Working for various couple of different attorneys over the course of those years, and then finally in 2016 branched out on my own.
Nice.
Kind of just like you guys did recently within the last year or so.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So yeah, Bulkan Title. We're based in Rhode Island. It's myself as the owner. We have 2 attorneys on staff. We have 8 paralegals. So we're fully functional. We can do everything real estate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, Dan, one of the questions now the market being, shifting a little bit, as we
Sure.
say, right? What do you foresee? Like, what are your take on that right now in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, we've had such a good run, Jeff, over the last, God, it feels like 3 years now, where we came out of a very a different time, with short sales and foreclosures and just a market trying to restabilize an economy. I think we're getting back into that. Not to say that the market will transition back to that market, but I think what we're going to find is I think we're going to see it flattening out a little bit. We've been very fortunate because rates have been suppressed and very low. Housing values have gone up, so it's helped people buy and sell, right? So we took people to their first starter homes, maybe the cottages, the raised ranches, things of that nature. They bought maybe back in 2014 or 2015. Values have gone up, rates are still low, and now they're able to transition. They've had a couple of family, they've had kids, they've got the 1.2 dog, the cats, and now they're moving into their forever homes. And I think that's where we saw a lot of buy and sells over the last couple of years, which has been very good for all of us, right? What we're going to see now, I believe, is that market's going to level off a little bit. As you can tell, in Rhode Island, we need about 2,000 active listings in order to have a fluid market. And that's where we were up until, I think even last year we didn't get over, you guys could probably tell me a little better, but 11 or 1,200 listings maybe at any time. And that's competition, bidding war, asking price over, waiving inspection. So we've really put it on ice when it's come to that now. I think I did the numbers right before I got here. I think we're under 700 active listings as of, we're taping this January 26th, right? So, and not only that, but rates are ticking up a little bit. So we're gonna see, I think there's plenty of buyers still, so I don't think we're gonna see values go down. I just think that we may lose some of those interested buyers because, again, not that a quarter of a point will make a big difference it may make a big difference in the payment to people. It could be 40, 50, up to $100, and that may not get their debt to income ratio in line in order for them to buy.
That's what it is too. I feel like it's not that they're gonna be discouraged, it's that they're just not gonna qualify.
Right, so you're just not seeing, there are just not enough homes.
Right.
And if you look at, over the course of time, the population has grown. We still have 1 million people in Rhode Island, but we don't have enough to support 1 million families.
Supply and demand.
That's why, like, new construction, it's like, they're building condos, they're building over 55 developments. They need to take the people that have been living in these homes and push them into something that is worthy of what their age limits may be, or suitable housing. There's a bunch of different things that are happening, but however, we just don't have enough to supply and demand right now. So the demand is there, which is great. That will drive, still keep the prices valid. They can still qualify, like Josh was saying, for that number. We just don't have homes. So that's
it's such a small state. Everyone wants to come around.
And you've got people. You still do. People love the Ocean State. At the end of the day, they still love it here. I know people will complain about taxes and motor vehicle taxes and tax, but you could buy the same house in Massachusetts and pay $500,000 more. So it's all relative to where you live.
What's the joke about land? God's not making any more of it.
Yeah, buy as much. Yeah. One of my best mentors, his name was Lou Barati. He always told me, he said, Daniel, buy as much land as you can because they're not making any more of it. It's the truth.
We need more new construction.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're starting to see it, but again, these were families and farms, and we're taking, some of the natural preservations away too. So it's a delicate task. You're trying to keep the soundness of Rhode Island, and you're also trying to expand it into livable space.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, what issues are you seeing mostly when you're doing the closings? Are you
In this
seeing
day and
any
age?
issues? Yeah, any issues?
Well, there's
Perfect.
Like, is there any issues at all?
I mean, it's a trying time, and as fluid as the market is, meaning there's plenty of house sales. I mean, we still are seeing a lot of home sales, but we're also seeing, over asking prices being accepted of 40, 50,000. Even in today's market, you're very rarely seeing a house being accepted at the listing price.
Yeah.
And even though people are still writing letters about how they want to have their families grow up in those neighborhoods and things of that nature, what I'm seeing is just a lot of complications still due to COVID, right? So for instance, water, sewer, Narragansett Bay, Kent County, Woonsocket, all of these different municipalities are also struggling for a couple of different reasons. One, COVID. Two, they might still also be working at home. Some of them have now gone off campus. Three, meters need to be replaced. So, and then even when we do get these final water meter reads, it's taking some of these agencies up to 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to actually get us the final numbers
Right.
in.
Yeah.
So you're seeing, as we're escrowing a lot of money
I
for
noticed
water
that.
and sewer, it's funny because offset, Jeff and I were talking, and I'm like, you know what, I want to stop being like maybe more aggressive with water meter reads and things of that nature, because I just had one in Providence that we were talking about. I actually escrowed water and sewer $1,500 each because there was an estate sale and there was bills still. I could tell taxes were delinquent, and I was like, all right, I got to have enough to cover it, right? 5 weeks later, here we are. The bills came back at $6,000.
Wow.
Now
I'm trying to get
chasing
that back.
somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, they were great sellers. I mean, I made the call, which is always a tough call because they're like, well, I don't know that. Most people will always be like, not my problem. Meanwhile, the person that bought the house, they're going to get their water and sewer shut off, or some sort of lien on the property or something along those lines. So, I was telling Jeff, I mean, maybe when we first get the listing and we're actually doing our photos or we're doing those things, snapshot the water meter. Let's start now. Let's order it now.
Yep.
Because listen, if it still takes 2 or 3 weeks for me to get that bill while you're in the listing, at least if they came back and said, hey, the water bill's $1,200, Dan, I at least have a baseline to start at.
Yes.
Because the last thing I want to do is dig into anybody's pockets, and and when I escrow $500, sometimes like, oh, that's insulting.
Yeah.
And then I get the bill back and it's $1,200. And that's insulting to me, knowing that you haven't paid your water bill, or not telling the agent what your financial look is, because they're like, oh no, everything's great. But until we actually get the paperwork in and things of that nature. So I would say let's start taking that water meter read right at listing, because if it takes 3 or 4 weeks and then I know it's $1,200, I can add that to the closing disclosure, and then I can also escrow for that little bit of time from like when we took the listing in a month. How much water could they use?
Right.
Maybe another $250, but at least at the end of the day. And the other thing is, if we do request that water meter read, a lot of the properties in Providence, Woonsocket, where the meters are older, they're asking for replacement.
Yes.
And that's not happening because we're not getting the bills till late, and then they're telling us we can't give a final bill until the water meter's been replaced, and then the buyer's sitting there with everything on their plate to do it.
Right.
So at least if we know these things, these are just like little things that we can probably avoid, where we are not banging our heads up against the ground because we're fighting on certain issues like water and sewer.
Right.
Since we're on the topic with water and sewer, I just had a situation. Actually, today I just got a call coming in here, and was a realtor. We did a deal together. This is back 6 months ago. When we closed on this, they held escrow for water and sewer for the sellers. I represented the sellers in this case, and the next month, he gets a bill with his name. He calls me up. He said, why am I getting bills in my name? I was like, okay, usually takes a while for it to transition. Okay, fine.
Happening.
Right? Second month, third month, fourth month, in his name.
Yeah.
He's like, what's going on? Right? He's like, I'm not responsible for this.
Correct.
Right? So we reached out to the attorneys numerous times, and they go, well, your seller needs to go there to get fill out whatever documentation they need to do.
Yeah.
So he goes there, He's frustrated, and they go, no, the attorney that did the closing is supposed to send those documentations over.
Yeah.
So then we go back to the attorney. He's like, no. He needs to go there. Have him go with the buyer. He went there, went with the buyer, frustrated. They told him the same thing. Then the third time I went, find out, I was like, this is getting ridiculous now, right? So now there's a huge bill now that's owed, and I get a call today saying, hey, where's your sellers? They're not being responsive or whatever, right? So I was like, dude, we've been at this for like months now, you know?
I don't know of a situation where the settlement agent, the title company, the attorney's office that handles a closing is not responsible for getting that paperwork to the municipal power, to water and sewer. Because we're the only ones with those change forms. Even like Woonsocket, they have a change form that we actually have them sign at the closing. New owner's name, address, phone number, email address, and we send that in so that they do change those bills over. And again, sometimes it does lag because, again, as we talked about, waiting that 3, 4, 5 weeks to actually get the final bill because they won't transition the property at that point. So
When does that happen? When do you guys send that change form?
well, normally when we get the water meter read,
Okay.
right? Typically we send in the forms, internally with, Narragansett Bay or Providence Water or Kent County or Woonsocket, whatever, whatever company is servicing that particular property. So, again, I think these are things because, COVID has really stretched timelines out. How about smoke inspections? Some of them have gone online now, but, at the beginning, and Josh, you could probably jump in on this a little bit, being a firefighter, I'm sure how many calls did you get? Can you just call the guy that does it? And sometimes these departments have one person that actually does those inspections. So as we're rushing through, or we're trying to get the fire departments to get out, there's just COVID hits. That one guy might have been exposed. People don't want people in your home right now because of COVID. So all of these things, even though we're racing to the finish line to get to a closing date, these items, you can't close without it. It's a general law. It's Rhode Island general law. You can't just, especially if you have a multifamily property, you have 3 or 4 families in there, and I get calls all the day. They're like, oh, just escrow money for it. And I'm like, there are 4 families living in a property right now. What happens if something happens?
Yeah.
Right.
Or again, sometimes depending on the type of property it is, it could be a complete rehab. That's a different story if there's no families living in the property. So, we have different variations of how we can approach things, but having the information up front is super important. That's why I said, take the water meter read right at the beginning right now.
Yeah.
Any of your agents that are working for you, anybody that you know, even if you're sending the buyers our way,
That's a good
if you're
point.
sending the listings
Yeah,
our way.
definitely.
Say, you know what? Dan's office is going to order that water for you right away.
Right.
Take me a snapshot, give it to me, I'll get it going because it's taken X, Y, and Z. Because usually you're like, well, they're living in the house and there's 2 or 3 families. I'm like, I'd rather get the number now.
Right.
And I can say, okay, well, a single family house, if they took showers for a week or 2, the bill's going to be $30 or $40.
Right.
So we're not chasing the number after the fact.
Right.
Or they might tell us then because we don't know at that listing appointment or that listing that Providence Water wants to replace the meter in the house. We don't know until we request.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, the meter's too old. And then, oh, it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks because, again, it's like trying to get somebody to come to your house to do work right now. I, had a boiler replacement done at my own personal property, and the guy's like, I have 3 crews out on COVID right now, with Omicron going on. We'll look back at this maybe 5 years from now and be like, what was, COVID? But, these are the situations that we're in.
Yeah.
So, and it goes right along the other things about what's happening at the closings. It's the same thing with appliances. Again, the sellers are getting 40, 50,000 over asking price. We have our sales disclosures that you're filling out at the beginning.
Right.
It may say all appliances. And some clients may not think all appliances meaning, oh, the kitchen.
Right.
Doesn't mean, all appliances, well, the washer and dryer are in the basement.
Is that an appliance?
Yeah, right. But again, these are the problems that we're seeing. So, of course, the buyers are going through, they get there, microwave, stove, refrigerator, everything's there. They go to the basement, there's loose connections.
Yeah.
And they're like,
So on that topic too, yesterday in one of my showings, I had the appliances are not going to be included on that sale. They're going to replace it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was stainless steel, right? Appliances they were going to replace it with. So when I see the garage, I see white appliances in the garage, and I asked the seller once they were gone, I said, "Hey, what are those?" "Oh, those are the ones we're going to replace it with." So they're like, regular, average, appliances.
The ones
so
that they
I
probably
rushed
bought
out
the
to the
house with that
front.
they've
So
been-
I rushed out to the front because the people were still. I was like, "Hey guys, wait!
Yeah.
The appliances are going to be white appliances, not stainless steel." So
Yeah, and that would have been an issue had you not caught it or
Yeah, I know,
been
for
seasoned.
sure.
And
That's
with a
happened.
lot of new agents, as we know, we have 9,000 realtors in Rhode Island right now, and not everyone is going to go through and have their due diligence like you guys are. And so hopefully this reaches a lot of those people
Yeah.
that are following you guys.
Just make sure those pictures that's not showing the stainless steel ones,
Yeah.
so then they'll
But
come
again,
back.
Well, if you disclose it,
it's
that's
a
not-
talking
yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
But again, if you don't disclose it,
Yeah.
when they come through, they're going to be like, wait a minute, we had stainless
Yeah.
steel or stainless steel looking appliances, and
Yeah.
now I have ivory or white or brown or green from the 80s,
Yeah.
And when they bought the house,
Wow.
they rehabbed
Green.
it. Yeah. Yellow,
brown.
Yellow ones. See
Oh, they got
those.
rust on them.
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah.
wasn't the condition. So
Yeah.
maybe put a value to those individual appliances as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's a good
In
idea.
case if
It's just
anything was
it's
to-
one extra step, but it will save us all a lot of headache at
Yeah.
the closing. Because I get the call, you guys are coming to the closing, Dan, the appliances are gone, or or they took the washer and dryer, and I'm like, oh great, so
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't want to close. This person's already moved out. They're in Florida, and then all of a sudden we're chasing back and forth, and all it does is cost time and eventually either money out of your pockets because
Yeah, 'cause
you're not
we've-
because you're like, oh man, I never told them there was going to be white appliances.
Right, right.
And now, they're like, we can't use these appliances. And you're like, all right, how do I make this work? How do I make this work?
Right.
Well, we always go into our pockets because we're at the closing table.
Mm-hmm.
The other agent's like, and then we become the contributor to the new appliances. So I would say in those additional provisions, even if it is all appliances on the sales disclosures and that included washer and dryer, I would individualize washer and dryer because
Absolutely.
we are running into a huge
Yeah.
problem with all appliances.
Right, right.
So just I know you have a question too, but just to prove that point, and realtors that are out there listening to this is very important because having that spelled out word by word, right,
Yes.
specifically is important
Yes.
because I had a situation one time where this is when I first started the business, the buyer's agent did the purchase and sales agreement,
Yeah.
and in that provision where it says what to convey, whatever, it says
Yeah.
all appliances or whatever, right? Well, I wasn't accustomed to going over the contract with the
Yeah.
seller. The seller's okay. Where do I sign? They look at the price, the deposit, the closing date. That's all they really care about, right?
Yeah.
Sign. Okay, how much credit I'm gonna give back? Okay, done, right?
Yeah.
I even missed it out.
Yeah.
Comes closing, he takes his washer and dryer out. The buyer's agent's like, hey, what happened with the washer and dryer? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's his. No, we put it on the contract. I'm like, oh my gosh, where?
Jeff,
So I'm like,
no,
Jeff will
I
never
know.
make that mistake again.
No, but sometimes it takes
cost
that one.
me
How much?
$1,500.
Ah,
I had to pay $1,500.
And I guarantee you,
to
when
recoup that.
that was probably in 05 when you first got your license, the houses were only
Don't remind me.
150,000. Your commission, that basically was probably most of your commission at that
Yeah.
point because we're just in a different age,
Right.
different value now.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would specify on those, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
this way you're not rushing through, because we've all gotten used to with COVID or not meeting the client sometimes to go over and review. It's a dot loop or some sort of electrical signature.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I looked at, and again, it takes maybe a second set of eyes, so maybe if the newer agent is blowing through disclosures, maybe as you as the broker owners, you guys just look at that and say, hey,
Right.
nothing goes out of this
Right.
brokerage
Right.
until, and maybe all brokers should be doing that. Before this goes out, let's get it looked at. Let's see what our sales disclosure said. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You've got one screen up here, you've got one monitor up here, and just make sure it all works because, again, it's costing money and time, effort. And,
Right.
and at the end of the day,
Hurt my pockets.
and it's going to hurt everybody's pockets
Yeah.
because you're going to be like, oh my God, I either made the mistake or this seller was so difficult that, they took X, Y, and Z. So I would just say those are the couple of things that, appliances right now, I don't know why. And I have this theory about washers anyway. It's like,
why were you?
why are we so hooked on somebody else's washing machine when they've been washing their clothes and you
Their
don't know
dirty
any
laundry.
I know.
And like, you know, I mean, sometimes you
I
go
never
in
even
and
looked at it that way. When you
that's the thing. We see some of that sometimes, and we go,
Get a new
I'm like,
one.
ugh. And especially if the house was nasty to begin with, or it was not to par, and you're worried about whose dirty drawers were, you know, being, you know, whose dirty laundry was in there, and you're stuck on, I wanted that dryer washer. I'm like, all right, not the double stackable, those nice front loader ones.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
some like, it's an appliance that is replaceable with, you know, hey, as your mom and dad, I'll help you get a new washer and dryer. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, to add to that one, I do have a similar story to Jeff's, but it was a little different. So what I like to do is instead of putting everything on the purchase and sales, these guys know I can be a little meticulous and particular with my paperwork.
Well, that comes
And-
from being in your background, of writing reports.
Yes,
yes,
military
absolutely.
background in me.
Yes.
So I put it on an addendum, and I would be specific. I remember for this one deal, because it was on an addendum, the listing agent said, "Oh, we didn't agree to that. I don't see it on the purchase and sales." I said, "But it's on this addendum you guys signed."
Yeah.
And then at the
Addendums
closing
are great,
table, they
too.
had to
I mean,
give
you
it to
can
us.
specifically take out
Yeah.
rents, security
took it
deposits.
right out.
Take everything out there, and again,
That actually, you're jumping ahead of me, brother.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
that actually brings me to my next question, which kind of I love that I'm getting the opportunity to ask you this question
Yeah.
because it's right up the alley of something I do because
Yeah.
I'm so particular about my paperwork.
Yeah.
When I get a multi specifically, I like to get estoppels. Forget giving me the leases.
Yeah.
I want an estoppel.
I want
letter.
it in writing.
Now,
That's right.
Can you explain a little
Yeah,
what they
absolutely.
are?
So the estoppel agreements are like, you know, basically a night. It's like the lease on top of the lease on top
Yes.
of like. So what it does is it gives the owner of the property an opportunity to show that buyer coming in or the purchaser exactly what they're facing. Right? Was there what's the monthly rent? What's the term of the lease? Is there a lease? How much was the security deposit? Because again, all of these items, we like to get them to the closing table so that they're on the closing disclosure, so that we're not chasing money after the fact. Oh, the new buyer shows up to the property and they're like, oh, okay, I'm here to, collect X. And like, I never paid that. Or, where's my security deposit? I'm moving out. Well, they told me that you didn't give one.
Right.
And then it just makes us look unprofessional. It makes us look like we're not doing our due diligence, like we're not actually protecting the client. And so, yeah, those are great opportunities. And that should be done listing. These are things, not waiting till like the day of the closing. We're chasing estoppel agreements, or we're getting rent rolls, or we're getting lease agreements. And, I wrote it on a napkin. Or, hey, if they're month to month, or they're month to month, it's okay. Just put it down. It's okay. You don't have to shy away from what you actually have in your house. But without having those types of addendums or agreements in place, we're going to continue to struggle at the closing table, and it all becomes money. And at the end of the day, chasing a seller or chasing a buyer for additional funds becomes out of our comfort zone. Some people are great at it. Some people are like, hey, you didn't obligate this, But if it's in writing and we have it up front, then we can add it right to the closing disclosure. Hey, here's the leases. You have it on a document that says this is it.
Right.
So there's no getting around. Well, that's not what no, you sign this agreement. It says this is what it is.
Yeah.
So very important. I think multifamilies are a lot of moving parts. You have multiple families in there. You have multiple, you could have, smoke detector issues, hardwire issues, water meter issues on some of those older multifamilies in Providence that, we all know. So again, I would think that, we'd want to definitely attack those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
super important.
What's great about the estoppel is some banks don't want to see the rents on the CD at all.
Yeah, it depends when we get it. It depends. Like, we're not going to be able to add all of these things
The day
the
of.
day of.
Yeah.
Well, there's no agreement. There's no adjustment stand. I'm like, yeah, but all right, where is it? Oh, they take it out of a cocktail napkin, or they wrote it down, or they're like they wrote it down on a piece of paper, like we're taking notes right now, and then like you're like, this is what you want me to go off of?
Yeah.
You want to be professional. You want to be looked as a professional.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's how we get our referrals.
Right.
It's not throwing it all together and just throwing it up in the air and figuring how it's going to land.
Right.
It's crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and making what we do different than the other 9,000 agents. So
Right.
as you guys continue to grow your brokerage, these are things that just become norm.
Right.
If you're, and as I come in and do trainings, I will certainly do all of this with you. This is, if we're doing a 2 to 4 or 2 to 6 or 2 to 10 or commercial, these are the documents, or this is what we should be doing. If we're doing water meter reads, get them up front. You know, it's the, you know, those propane and oil, it's another one. You know, again, you know, those are other things that you end up giving up money for. You know, propane, oil adjustments. A lot of the oil companies don't even want to go out and give you readings anymore. So
Right.
where's that certificate? Well, my client just says they put $400 of oil in the day before the closing. Well, the needle's on empty. So how do I prove or disprove that? You know, or, you know, the tank's underground. Some of those oil tanks are underground. Well, they just pumped in. Here's the receipt from the beginning of December that they put in 1,000 gallons. Okay, it's now January 25th. You know, so we're not paying you $1,200 for that oil,
Right.
you know, whatever the number is. So, and then we're battling with that. You know, I mean, it's a courtesy to be able to go ahead and buy what's existing, but it becomes detrimental to us when we don't have those in the, you know, those are things that we are tough right now too, because again, these companies aren't going out and giving readings. You know, we're taking pictures at the closing. Here's where it looks like. You know, did they pay $3.29 a gallon? Did they have it on $1.99 a gallon? As we know, oil is going up, propane's going up, gas is going up. So again, those are like all of those three issues: water, sewer, rent rolls and leases, and oil and
The
propane
appliance.
adjustments and appliances. Yeah. So to jump back on that, what are we seeing? That's what we're seeing. It's not about selling the house. It's not about getting it on the market. It's not about taking great pictures. It's not even about finding multiple buyers that fit your clients, what they're looking for. It's about all the little ad stuff. And I think that's where the professionalism is, we're losing in the market, because people don't understand that those are more important. You know, it's not getting up and going to the gym. It's actually being at the gym and doing the exercises that get you in shape. You know, having the thought of being there is great.
It's not gonna help
but that's
you.
not going to help you, exactly. So these are the things that professionalism and will help you grow your organization. Because again, there's a lot of misconceptions out there that anybody can sell a house. You know, I would have anybody go up against what you guys are doing right now and try to fill those same roles. Honestly.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Dan, listen, I really appreciate you joining us. This was
Yes,
very informative,
thank
very
you.
great. I learned
Yeah.
something today, so that's
That's
great.
good,
So,
yeah.
Yes,
you know,
thank
it kind of repolished my skills a little bit.
because
So,
that will
which is
always
all
shine.
good.
You know,
Yeah.
the cream rises to the top,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's great that we have a lot of great agents out there that you've worked with in the past.
Yeah.
And you know, when you see their offers come in or you see their listings, you're like, oh, I know this is going to
Right.
go nice and smooth.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you got somebody like, whoa, I don't even know who that name is. And then you start
Yeah.
looking up their name and their
Yeah,
ID,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, they just got their license last month.
Right.
And you know, showing times because they work a job. And again, it's nothing against part-timers, but again, as a professional, not everybody can do this. You know, not
Right.
everybody, just
Right.
because you have a license,
Right.
you're licensed. Yes, you passed a test, but that doesn't mean you have guidance.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have brokerage. Doesn't mean you have mentors. Doesn't mean you have training.
Right.
You know, you go hang your license up, and you're off and running. You guys have all come from different agencies that do that. You know, it's like, oh, come in, we have a mentor program.
Right.
Well, your mentor did 3 transactions in the last 3 years. You know, and you're like sitting there like, okay, yeah. No, but that's what I mean, right? And, yeah. You know, and you're like, all right,
true.
good, I'm going to learn from this guy. And you're like, hey, how you doing? Like, well, I'm still Susie Homemaker, and I got to take the kids today. And like, you know, so I could go on and on.
Yeah,
No, this is great.
That's awesome.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome.
absolutely.
I'm glad to finally be here
Yeah,
and be
yeah.
part of it.
Awesome.
Love
Love to
having
have
you
you
as
more.
a partner.
absolutely.
You know?
No, that
This
helps
is-
too.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
17 years since 2004 in this business.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple things. You know,
Just a few.
when I met Jeff, I had a full hair doc there. He still looks the same. You know?
Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Hope you guys found it very informative. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, share it with other individuals that might find this topic interesting. And again, Jeff Infante with Real Estate Talk Today, Josh DeBrossard and Jenny Clement. See you guys soon. Take care.